Have you just finished your community service and you're not quite sure what to do with your life right now? Maybe you're thinking about going into GP practice or going directly into specializing. Maybe community service has left you a bit run down or burnt out and you want to try something a little bit different. If any of these things sound like you, then this video is probably for you. Hi everyone, this is a video mainly detailing ways to make a living as a doctor in South Africa. Mainly, I'm going to go into some alternative methods on making money. I will also include specializing and GP practice, but I'll go into more detail on that later. For those of you new here, hi, I'm Matt. I'm a doctor working in Cape Town, South Africa. I basically did my undergrad in the University of Pretoria, followed by my internship at Groote Hospital in Cape Town and my community service at Khayelitsha Hospital. I used my emergency medicine experience from Khayelitsha Hospital to go out and get a diploma or DPIC in emergency medicine, after which I worked quite a bit in various locum jobs all around Cape Town. I then used that diploma to go overseas and work for a couple of years on cruise ships, traveling the world. While traveling around the world on cruise ships, one of my experiences was having to deal with the first cruise ship with COVID in the world, right at the beginning of the pandemic in January 2020. Following that, after working cruise ships for a little bit longer during COVID, I came back to South Africa where I continued to do some work in both film medicine and also subsequently have gone into GP practice, where I am currently to this day. So what is the main reason for me doing this video? Basically, when I finished my community service, I was also left with a bit of anxiety as what I should be doing next. I also feel that jobs were a bit easier to come by a few years ago, and now there's a bit more difficulty, especially in the beginning of January of the year. There's kind of a locum rush to acquire all the locum positions in both emergency and in GP practice settings. And then of course the ultimate dilemma for any doctor: do you specialize or go into GP practice? As I said, I'm going to mainly focus on other areas besides these two options, but I'll also go into detail on those. So I'm going to go into the top 14 ways to make money as a doctor in South Africa. Some of these also apply in other places in the world, but as mentioned, this is more locally based here in South Africa. So first way of making money as a doctor in South Africa would be concierge medicine. This basically can range from very basic services to house visits. You could even go to follow a more premium practice where you rather want to specialize in only helping honestly really high paying clients. This obviously also depends on what kind of brand you're trying to make, whether you want to sort of be more focused towards that premium style, or if you're just willing to do house visits for anyone that approaches you. You could either do this individually for yourself, or you could get a group of doctors together so that you cover certain hours or certain days of the week. And obviously you can add emergency hours or just normal daytime hours to cover yourself. Option number 2 is to go into GP practice. This is probably one of the more obvious choices that most of you will know, having grown up with some sort of GP in your life. I would actually suggest joining another practice in the beginning before you do this. I think the advantage of this is that you can kind of see what works well for you, what you like, what you dislike, what works really well. And when you decide to make your own practice one day, you could then take the good points, get rid of the bad points, and use what works for you. Option number 3, also one of the more obvious choices, specializing. This seems like a great idea in theory. Obviously depends on what your ultimate goal with medicine is. I think in our current climate, it's actually quite difficult to get a position these days. Obviously also depending on what specialization you're trying to go into. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. I'll probably save that for another video, but just listing it as one of the options here. Option number 4 would be to do medical examinations. There's quite a few various medical examinations that you can do. This can include things such as visa medicals, or you could do mining medicals, or even insurance medicals. A lot of these companies would approach you or send their people to you to get these medicals done. Obviously, you need to make sure these People are healthy, but it's not really a difficult practice to run, as most of the time just involves your knowledge that you get from your usual baseline training. If you wanted to be more specialized, you could go into areas such as seafarers medicals for cruise ship medicine, coming up in one of the later options. I'll go into more detail on that, but that is something you could add extra, and you could make a full career from that as well. Option number 5 is to do additional training or education for other doctors or even other healthcare practitioners. This could include things like assisting with ACLS training or ATLS training. The advantage of doing these is also that it can exempt you to a degree from renewing yours when you have a training certificate in these. Option number 6 is to get an additional diploma after you've obtained your full community service. You can actually do this while doing your community service, although it can be difficult. It also depends on where you do your community service. This probably doesn't sound like an additional option to do once you finish your training, but it gives you many advantages going forward. For instance, if you do your diploma in emergency medicine, if you're doing locums in emergency, they'll often give you higher rates depending on which company you use as your locum agency. Or if you do your DA in anesthetics, you can obviously assist in theatre and make that your full career. And will also help you if you're trying to specialising as well. Speaking of theatre, option number 7 is to actually assist in theatre. You can help surgeons with their cases. Many people use this as an additional source of income rather than just their sole source of income. The good thing with this is you can obviously get some surgical experience, but also at the same time, if one of those doctors really prefers you, they'll always rely on you and call you back to help. Option number 8 is cruise ship medicine. As you know from my introduction, I did this for about 5 years. I highly recommend it. It's a good opportunity after your community service, especially if you're feeling a bit burnt out. You get some good travel, the money's good, and you save a lot of money while you're doing this. Although the experience it gives you in medicine is not so great, it does lead to other opportunities of learning, such as just having more free time to study additional diplomas or additional degrees. The other advantage is that you do learn quite a lot about managing a team and also a lot about public health, depending on the areas that you go to. This is quite a popular option at the moment after people finish their community service, as gives you a bit of a break after the chaotic years in internship and community service, and gets a little bit of money back in your pocket. South African doctors are also in high demand for this service due to the experience we get through our community service. These days they do want you to have a diploma in emergency medicine as a standard, but this is not always the case. Option number 9 is to go into research. Obviously there's various opportunities here in different fields. And one of the advantages of research is obviously if you don't like clinical medicine, it's a huge advantage to be in research. Additionally, if you are trying to get into specializing, they do like you to have research in your background. Option 11 is to go into occupational health. This could be anything from getting people back to work. You can also deal with Workmen's Compensation Act issues. Some people make a full practice around this. There are quite a few nuances to this, and having additional training in occupational health is definitely valuable but not needed in all cases. Option number 11 is telephonic consultations. This is obviously great if you're trying to stay at home or you need a more of a flexible lifestyle. Lots of people add this to their general practice, but you can even solely just do telephonic consults from home. With the way technology is evolving, it's easier and easier to do telephonic or video call consultations. This can include simple consults, but also be more complicated consults, such as following up with chronic patients only. For instance, you could only follow up with HIV and TB patients or diabetic hypertensive patients. The list goes on. Option number 12 is aesthetic medicine. This is quite a popular option in recent years, especially as an adjunct to your GP practice. Some people focus solely on the aesthetic side, but you can go from a very basic level, only using Botox for simple fixes like grinding teeth or to help people who are perspiring a lot. But obviously the level and degree of extra training that you want depends on you and how far you want to go into the field. Option 13 is to go into medical consulting. This can be things such as solely focusing on pharmacology or even applications that go into medical health. Many of these app developers need a doctor to ensure that they are doing the right thing, as not many of them are medically trained. With AI coming into the picture more and more these days, I find AI will probably also need quite a bit of consulting to ensure that it's doing the right thing, not only with applications, but even things such as note keeping in general practice. Transcribing is becoming quite a big thing these days, where AI will summarize your note keeping, and some form of consulting needs to be done with a doctor to ensure the right things are being included. Option number 14, and the final option here, quite a niche topic, but film medicine, something that I've also been involved in over the last few years while being in GP practice, but also in between my cruise ship time and between my GP practice. I did work a bit on Survivor South Africa, helping both the crew and the contestants to ensure that they're all healthy. Essentially, film medicine has become quite popular, especially in Cape Town, South Africa. There are on and off-peak seasons for film medicine, which obviously could affect your income, but in general, there's some sort of film happening all the time. Peak season in summer tends to be more movie related, but advertisements continue throughout the year. So this is also another great opportunity, which once again, you could just add to your GP practice as a sort of consulting basis, or you could make it your full-time practice. I hope a lot of this information was helpful to you. Please let me know in the comments if there's any specific areas that piques your interest and you want me to go into more details. I'll definitely be making up some follow-up videos on some of these options. So please let me know. I'll see you in my future videos that I make on some of these topics, and good luck out there creating your own career decisions.